Good evening, everyone, and welcome to this august event. My name is Lande Abdu, and I currently am the component lead SHS on the World Bank Nigeria Electrification Project. So I see a lot of familiar faces, and welcome all of you and the not so familiar ones anyway. And what we're here for, to in a way, what part of the send forth activities to see Dr. Weber Boa off in a nice renewable energy way, off-grid sector way. And so it's actually an honor to say a few words because I wear two hats today. One is the football hat. As everyone knows, aside from renewable energy, he's also written a book about the history of football in Nigeria, which I have read, and I still have my signed copy, and I'm very proud. So less of the football and more of the renewable energy. So multi-talented person, and we're here to honor him. So why was I chosen? Because I'm one of the many people, or our organization, one of the many people that benefited from his foresight, his support of the sector, and the growth and scale up. So I was then at RIAN, the Renewable Energy Association of Nigeria. And as I said, we had met on the football angle. I'd followed the book, I'd seen him, and then into my role at the Renewable Energy Association, and they offered us huge support. So many renewable energy players. So by supporting RIAN, it was an extension supporting so many other people so many other developers, lawyers, consultants, practitioners in the renewable energy space. So Orlon came in and quietly just lent us that support and allowed us to create our secretariat from which RIAN operates out of, and really pretty much changed the landscape level. But anybody that knows him also knows the passion that he brings for the off-grid sector. You'll see, he has a very active LinkedIn space. So those of us that follow him see him going, he's here in Jos today, Rokota tomorrow, and bedding in and really getting in. So it's one thing to support financially, it's another to really have a stake, own it, and make friends of all the people. So without boring all of you too much, I'd just like to say it's nice to be here, nice to have him here to discuss about furthering the off-grid sector and have all of you people. So you're very welcome, and I'll introduce the moderator for the session. So today's moderator, Michael Nwachukwu, is the Business Development Manager and Africa Lead at Steamaco. Over the past 17 years, Michael provided stellar leadership in Nigeria's banking industry. He spent about a decade at Sterling Bank, so the money guys, a clear leader in renewable energy financing. Before joining Steamaco, Michael was the pioneer manager renewable energy at Sterling Bank, and I'm sure a lot of us interfaced with him in that role, covering Abuja and the North. He was responsible for achieving financial close for the single largest deal in the industry with 100,000 Solar Niger project of the federal government of Nigeria. I'm sure we all know about Solar Power Niger. So Steamaco is an IoT smart metering technology company with operations in Southeast Asia and Sub-Saharan Africa. And they develop smart meters and AMI software. And all of that sounds fancy, but essentially smart meters. It works. That deliver mission-critical consumer intelligence to utilities, aiding in energy theft detection and reducing AT&C losses. Steamaco is an off-grid market leader, and that's why we're here today, talking about the off-grid sector, operating in 15 countries across Africa and currently in partnership with major utilities to deliver grid-scale projects. So I will please ask you to come up to the podium or to the stage. Please welcome Michael Nwachukwu, the moderator for today. So over to you.
Thank you very much. I'll say, ladies and gentlemen, you're welcome to this very wonderful event. As you know, Dr. Weber is foundational. His impact is far-fetched. he has been instrumental to the growth and development of many, many, many players within the sector. As I introduce Dr. Weber to come to the podium, please permit me to reel out a little profile. So Dr. Weber Boa is the CEO of All on Energy, an off-grid energy impact investment fund for Nigeria, seeded by Shell. Before joining All On, he was a principal with the Lagos office of the Boston Consulting Group, serving as head of public sector, marketing, and business development for the BCG New Lagos office. Weber previously served as a director of strategy and chief of staff to the chairman of Highest Holding, a Pan-African investment holding company. Prior to that, Dr. Boa was the inaugural CEO of the Tony Elumelu Foundation, a pioneer African foundation established in 2010 to advance Africa's economic development and prosperity. Before that, we served as an associate director with the Rockefeller Foundation, Africa Regional Office based in Nairobi, Kenya, where he managed a broad portfolio including climate change, agricultural development, impact investment, China's engagement with Africa, and impact outsourcing. Dr. Weeb joined the Rockefeller Foundation in early 2008 after 3 years as a consultant with McKinsey and Company's Atlantic office, where in addition to numerous engagements in the private sector in the United States, he participated on the team that worked with the government of Kenya to develop the economic pillar Vision 2030, the country's audacious long-term development strategy. Well, prior to joining McKinsey, we spent 2 years in Mauritania managing a USAID-funded food aid development project for the World Vision. Born and raised in Jos, which is why some people have clamored, and are still clamoring. Was born to Nigerian Dutch missionary parents, so to Dutch missionary parents. We earned a PhD in African history from Yale University and undergraduate degree from Calvin College, while carrying out his dissertation research in Nigeria on the role of football in the construction of a Nigerian national identity. We and a group of partners set up the first ISP in central Nigeria. Dr. Weeb, I must add at this point, will be leaving All On by the end of the month, where he'll be returning to Calvin University as the university's president. Ladies and gentlemen, can we put our hands together as we welcome Dr. Weeb Boa. You're welcome. All right, so as you know, I'm very privileged. I'm very excited to be the one shooting the shots tonight. And I will allow Dr. Weeb to say a few things about himself before we ask questions about his impact in the sector.
I think you already said it, so we can start. Yeah.
All right, fantastic. All right, so Dr. Weeb, we all know that All On is sort of, without question, the impact institution. So as a question, as an impact investor, what has been the guiding principle for All On's investments in the sector?
So for something to be an impact investment, it has to have a dual intent of creating social impact and financial return. And many often forget that. And so that actually guides how we make investments. We look at every company. Is it economically sound? Is it financially viable? Can it scale? But then also, will it create impact? And for us, that most important impact is connecting low-income households and small businesses to clean, affordable energy. So it really is those two elements. And often I think in these sectors, it's easy to forget one or the other.
The wonderful operating environment in Nigeria.
Very good question. So we're funded by Shell, so we're backed by Shell in terms of like the back office operations and all that. And while that sounds like a really good thing, sometimes being backed by a $200 billion company doesn't fit when we're trying to make small investments. So sometimes, and I think some people even in this room often complain that we seem too slow. And part of that is because of the sort of the big machine that's behind us. But other than that, I know, Nigeria can be a very difficult operating environment. But we've actually found that, and we primarily invest in Nigerian companies. And so we've actually found that it is actually quite straightforward. Once the entrepreneur and the investor have a common view, common vision, and no one's trying to be smart with the other, it actually goes pretty straightforward. And so we've made close to 50 investments. We don't know the exact numbers because we probably make a new investment every few weeks, but about 45 of those are fully Nigerian owned and operated companies. And often in this sector, you'll find investors that do a lot of investing in foreign owned renewable energy companies, but African founders often don't get the funding. And we've actually found that it's the African founders that are the easiest ones to work with and have the best governance and and are ready to kind of roll up their sleeves and allow us to work with them to really improve and grow.
So speaking of which, if you say that there's a preference for foreign-owned companies,
not from us.
I know,
Yeah,
I mean, of course, from the investor, that is, from the funders. So the question is, do you think that the Nigerian-owned companies have the technical competence to run the affairs of such businesses?
Of course.
Okay, fantastic. So the thing is, have you, in the course of your work, would you rate the technical levels in terms of knowledge, in terms of structure, in terms of human capacity development, in this sector? Is there a gap in that sector from your perspective?
So yes, there is. I mean, it's a nascent sector in Nigeria in particular. I mean, it's really only, I guess GVE did the first mini grid 10 years ago. The solar home system concept was invented in East Africa probably 12 years ago. So it's a relatively new sector, and in Nigeria in particular. And so in any new sector anywhere in the world, there's always going to be, sort of capacity gaps, technical gaps, and so on. But I think that's what we've all been working on together. And I think in this sector, there's a pretty close relationship between the government through the REA, all the donors that are involved, the associations like RIAN, and then the investors, so that we're all working together to kind of close those gaps. So while we're primarily investors deploying capital, we also do some capacity development. But then there's other donors that do a lot more of that because it's more of their focus. And so it's a pretty synergistic sector. And we're all kind of working together to fill those gaps. And then, when the gap is a government-related issue, the REA is always there to kind of speak on the industry's behalf. RIAN is there, and so on. So I think there are issues, there are capacity technical issues, but they're all being addressed.
Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Weber. So in terms on the same question, because capacity building is something even from my former life as a banker, we had issues. We saw shortfalls in that space. Is Olon currently working with partners to address some specific, because I know you mentioned the RIAN, REA, but there are specific purpose built programs towards developing capacity in the sector?
Yeah. Okay, so we've done grants. So we have a small grants program. We're primarily investors, but we do small grants for particularly focused sort of short-term interventions. So we did have a grant for about 3 years to Rubitech. It's one of the mini grid companies, that they also had a training academy. And so that was basically to train several hundred young people on kind of the basics of mini grid design, solar installation, and that kind of thing. We've now moved away from that, and we're working with a company called the Energy Training Company. I think the CEO is here. Yeah. Okay. And so with that one, it's a more online version so that it can actually scale much faster. And so that is something we do. But I think there is a lot more of that needs to be done. But for me, I think the real capacity issue, as the industry is now at the phase stage where it needs to now go from early to growth, is the management capacity of the companies. So it's one thing to have the capacity to kind of start a company, do your first 5 mini grids, sell your first 30,000 solar home systems, raise your first 2-3 million. When you get to that 5, 10, 15 million, it really is a different level of management. And I think that's actually what needs to be worked on now. And so we do have the All On Hub, which is funded by the Rockefeller Foundation, and that does provide some of that kind of technical support. We partner with CEOs and management teams, provide them, legal support, strategy support, and so on. But I actually think, as I'm thinking of what the big issues the industry will face as I leave, I think it's actually that senior management capacity. And I think the industry is going to have to start bringing in people from other sectors, right? Because what we don't want is that we keep recycling people from, there's some people that you see their CVs and they've already been at 4 solar companies in 3 years. And that's not how we should grow the sector. We need to bring new talent in, maybe from telecoms, maybe from, banking, you came from banking, and so on. And then we need to bring those people in to help grow these companies to the next level.
Okay. The problem I see there is, while that is really, apt and strategic, I believe that some companies struggle with corporate governance, where the ownership is unable to divorce itself from control. So how do you intend to handle that?
Right. Yeah. That's an issue in any startup. It doesn't matter the sector. And I think what has happened in Nigeria, there's been a lot of really bad experiences that, again, not this sector necessarily, but sort of the startup sector, startups generally, of someone raising some capital and then losing control of their company. And then because of that, then people are very suspect and very cautious. But what we say to a CEO is, okay, you can own 100% of a $1 million company, or let us and others invest in you, and you can own 51% of a $100 million company. Which do you prefer? And I think it's a choice that they have to make, but then they also have to be careful of who they take money from. And we have had sometimes where we're ready to close a deal, and then the investee actually uses our term sheet to get money from someone else at slightly better terms, but they don't really do their homework. So they close that deal, it goes really bad. And then a year later, they come back to us and say, oh, that term sheet, can we look at it? It's like, no, sorry. And so I think it's both the side of the, I think the investee, the entrepreneur has to be smart about this, about the balance, about the right funding, the right type of capital. And then the investor also has to be smart about it.
Fantastic. Well, I'll say at this point, audience, both physical, get ready your questions. The viewers online also get your questions ready, as very soon we'll be throwing the questions to Dr. Weeb Boa. All right, so quickly, Doc, the next question will be hovered around improving affordability and awareness. We all understand as players, participants in the industry, that renewable energy is primarily an import-dependent, business. That means that sometimes developers struggle with forex, they struggle with supply chain issues, and that's why I understand that All On was able to come up with a demand aggregation for renewable technology, DARTs. Can you tell us about that, please?
Yeah. So obviously any early sector has issues, but one of the big issues is that most companies in the space are quite small. And so basically everyone was going to primarily China to import separately. And then, small orders, obviously you don't get any economies of scale, you don't get the right kind of discounts. And then when it comes in as just a small order, then you fight customs and their wahala on your own. And so what the DART program does is it aggregates across 10, 15 different developers. And then they then get a loan from All On. It's 50% funded by Rockefeller, 50% by All On. It's a very low interest loan. They can actually pay back in Naira. And then we collectively order in mass. So we're in the process of signing the term sheets and confirming kind of the first 10 companies that are going to do this. And then there'll be approximately a $5 to $7 million order, when most of these companies on their own would only do $500,000 to $1 million order. So it'll be a much bigger order. There'll be about a 30% discount. And then when it comes in, it'll be something that should be able to clear more quickly, because there'll be a bit of high profile around it. So that's one approach, but ultimately that also is not sustainable, because we can't build a 10, 15, $20 billion industry with everything being imported. Last year, I was in Enugu and visiting one of our investees. It was an angel investee of ours called Greenidge. And these are young guys, early 20s. They just graduated from UNN. Literally, I think the oldest guy in the company is 23. Wow. And they figured out how to manufacture inverters, solar inverters, using all local parts except the chips. Everything else was local, and they were doing high quality, locally manufactured, 20% less than the landed cost of a Chinese, similar equipment. And so I came to see it. It's all very rudimentary. We're actually working on closing a much bigger deal with them now. But the CEO at the time said to me, Wiba, his name is Uche, he said, Wiba, I know you guys, Olan was set up to help Nigeria, but 90% of your money goes to China. So you're actually helping China, not Nigeria. And that actually kind of made it very stark. So in addition to investing in them, I think it's well known we've invested in Oxano, which was the only private solar panel manufacturer at least in Lagos. I think Blue Camel may be starting. I don't know if they've started in Kaduna yet. But now they're set. We did a second investment in them, $1.5 million to set up a 100 megawatt a year solar panel assembly plant in Ibeju-Lekki by the free trade zone. And the entire installed capacity of solar in Nigeria is only 200 megawatts. So the 100 megawatts of panels they're making a year should supply the entire Nigerian market, probably even export. And then because it's located at the free trade zone, they're easily going to be able to expand and maybe also start assembling battery systems and so on. So we really need to focus on that as well, so that 2-3 years from now, most of the products that developers need, that solar home system companies need, are all at least assembled in Nigeria. And then we should even be exporting to other African countries around us.
Brilliant, very brilliant. But so the thing is, I know some years ago, like 10, 15, 20 years ago, we used to laugh at made in China products, right? We used to see them as inferior, decrepit, low standard. Now that we're trying to increase capacity in terms of production in Nigeria, what is Olan doing, or what will Olan do to increase awareness, advocacy, adoption, acceptance of these products?
You mean the Nigerian-made products?
Yes.
So interestingly, I mean, sometimes the panels that are made in Nigeria are actually labeled as made in China, because customers, our own Nigerian customers, don't believe in Nigerian products, which is a problem. But like you said, 10 to 15 years ago, nobody believed in Chinese products. 40 years ago, or 50, nobody believed in Japanese products. 30, nobody believed in Korean products. And now those are the products that are the best in the world. So we really need to, I think, and anyone here who's a developer who buys solar equipment, do everything you can to actually buy your panels from Oxano, buy your inverters from Greenidge, buy locally. And if there's a problem, obviously let it be known. But our office, for example, has been running on Oxano solar panels for the last 1.5 years with absolutely no issues. And they work just as good as anywhere else. So
that's brilliant. So I'm going to ask you an off-the-cuff question. So Dr. Weber, do you want to be governor of Plateau State?
There are other potential governors in the room. So I'm not a Nigerian citizen. I think the first thing is I would hope that Nigeria will change the constitution so that people like me can become citizens. People don't realize this, but I think only Saudi Arabia might have a more you have to go to the Ministry of Interior to get a form that then triggers a process that starts at approval at the local government chairman, the traditional
Not be here at all. All of us will agree that All-On has been foundational, fundamental to the growth and development of the sector. So the question now is, what are some of the measures, mechanisms All-On is establishing today to entrench the impact of its efforts and to ensure the sustainability of the entire off-grid ecosystem?
Right. Okay. Well, I guess, like I said earlier, I mean, All-On isn't doing this alone. And I think the sustainability of the ecosystem is because of the great partnership between the associations, the government, donors, other investors, and so on. But in terms of our own portfolio, so Tomi is our finance manager right here. She's double hatting as communications today. But you know, we have a very strong team, and we're very focused on making sure that the companies we invest in are financially sound, and we keep a very close eye on them. And because what we have to avoid is that even if 2 or 3 of the major companies go bankrupt or break down or just move into something else, it'll be a really big red flag that we need to avoid. And so we're focused a lot on making sure the companies we've invested in grow and sustain. And we have a you know, capital at different stages of their growth, right? And so all the companies that we've invested in, even at the angel stage, know that if they perform, there's another, you know, 2 million, 3 million, 5 million that we can invest in them and help them graduate to that point where they don't need our capital and they can get the 10, 15, 20, $30 million check. And so in terms of sustainability, it's about those investees that we've already invested in, the ones in the pipeline, making sure that they continue to have proper governance, continue to deliver, continue to execute, and just continue to deploy the capital properly and, you know, grow the sector and increase the number of connections in Nigeria.
Okay, I'll wrap up very soon, so we'll have opportunities to ask questions. So I'll ask you, Dr. Weber, what has been the biggest challenge you've experienced working as All-On in Nigeria?
So I think the biggest challenge is, let me just say what keeps us up at night.
Yeah.
Is just the fact that the problem is so big. And so, you know, even though we've made 50 investments, we've deployed, you know, tens of millions of dollars of capital, and so have others, we still have really not even touched the surface. And, you know, it's a real wake-up call to see how long and how hard this is. You'll hear some investors outside Nigeria talk about, oh, they've invested in this sector and, you know, they've impacted 200 million people, but that's nonsense. Like, we know what the hard work it takes and how long it takes for every connection, every impact, you know, every individual impact to be made. And so I think for me, what keeps us up at night is how do we do it faster? How do we deploy quicker? How do we, you know, change the, you know, improve regulations faster? How do we, you know, even deploy NEP grants faster? You know, everything like that. We need to figure out how to do everything faster so that we can close this gap and really meaningfully change the narrative about energy access in Nigeria.
Okay, very, very apt and well said. So I'll ask you 2 more questions, then I'll put the questions to the general public. So what has been your proudest moment as All-On Chief Exec?
So it'll be in 2 months, but I actually won't be there.
Oh.
It'll be when someone cuts the ribbon to open the Oxano factory.
Oh, fantastic, fantastic. Okay, thank you very much, Dr. Weber. Boa, you can give a round of applause, please. It's been very inspiring for me to ask these questions directly to the man who has touched lives in countless ways. He has impacted the renewable energy space in no small way. So, ladies and gentlemen, I think we'll open the floor for questions at this valedictory session, to Dr. Boa Weaver. All right, so I start with you, sir. Microphone, please. We'll ask questions. Please be right on point, your name, your question. Microphone, please, too. All right, fine.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Ugochukwu Chukwujaka. I lead the Energy Talent Company, and what we essentially do, we're bridging the gap in terms of talent gap that exists across board, SHS, commercial, industrial. I can see some of our clients here. It's really sad to see you go, but my question is more towards the talent gap, obviously. So seeing as you're going to university, and one of the things that we've emphasized even internally is energy talent can't do it alone, right? We have all of these universities spread across Nigeria, right? And most of our talents who apply to our program are typically graduates from. Okay. Check. Okay. Are there opportunities that you're seeing in terms of how we can collaborate both as a training institution and with the universities and also with Calvin University where you're going to?
I hadn't thought of that, but so Calvin is actually developing an entire what's called the Calvin Global Campus to actually deliver training online to the world. So we can talk. Let's figure something out.
Fantastic. So the gentleman behind.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Abubakar Shaibu. I'm the founder and CEO of Green Energy Mission Africa. My question actually goes to the participation of young people in the energy space. What are the efforts that All-On has been making, and what are the things that All-On are doing that are centered around young people, and what are the plans for the potential young people of the country? Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I mentioned, for example, Greenidge, where the CEO is 22, 23. The whole team is very young. Most of the investments that we've made are actually in young Nigerians. I think most of our CEOs are 35 and under. So basically almost everything All-On does is actually focused on Nigerian youth and investing in them at a time that no one else would put money into them. And so I think it's a really key part of what All-On does.
Thank you. Okay, let's from the front.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bisoye Gofwe, and I'm from Central Bank. But I was originally in Jos. So we've met severally Hillcrest Community, Jos Business School, and all of that. Now, what I want to know is, and at Jos Business School, I dealt mostly with startups.
Okay.
So I know the issues that startups have, and the fact that it's rare to find startups lasting for more than 5 years. What has been your experience dealing with startups in Nigeria in terms of integrity, returns on investments, payback of investments, and all of that?
Thank you.
Yeah, so very good question. I mean, so in terms of investment with a financial return, we start at the angel stage and then go forward. And of our probably 30 or so angel investments that we've done, only 2 are in default, and the others are, some of them are 2, 3, 4 years. They've been growing and continuing and are preparing for additional funding from us. So that's a pretty good return, considering, as you say, most startups last only 3 years, and that's not just Nigeria, that's everywhere in the world. We then also have a program that focuses on ideation stage, and that's in partnership with, that's through the All-On Hub, in partnership with the Nigerian Climate Innovation Center at the Enterprise Development Center of the Pan-Atlantic University. It's like the longest title for any institution. And then also Clean Tech Hub here in Abuja. And so with that one, it's basically, that ideation stage. So the very early businesses that may not even have a name for the business, may not be registered. It's more of a concept. and then they're sort of selected. There's usually several hundred applicants. They're selected. 20 or so of them go through each of the programs, and then around 10 are funded with $10,000 grants. And again, the track record there is also pretty high. Of all of the recipients, at least of the grants, the sort of the top ones, I believe all of them are still, to some extent, still doing what they said they were going to be doing. But I think it's because this is a sector that anyone who goes into it has to have a pretty strong, I mean, this is not a sector that anybody's going to make money really fast. It's not a get rich quick, right? So anyone who says I'm going to get into this sector, I think they have a sort of a social impact approach to start with. And so they're not, you know, they don't give up so quickly. They're people that are usually quite persistent, and they're ready to kind of roll up their sleeves and keep pushing and pushing. So it is something we watch, and we you know, we definitely work hard to give them a chance to survive and grow. And so far, I think the record has been quite positive.
All right, are you okay with that? Okay, the man with the black suit, I think I saw your hand up first.
I'm Achiku Jaffer. I'm with Trans Advisory Legal Solutions with the Energy Practice Group. My questions borders around regulations. Nigeria is essentially a fossil fuel-based economy. Looking at our energy mix, it accounts for over 80%. Now, deploying sustainable off-grid solutions rely on very sound and predictable regulations. What are you doing at Olon, or what have you done at Olon to provide capacity building support for regulators, seeing how most of the policies in the sector have been hampered by unpredictable regulations? And we have seen how regulations have hampered the takeoff of the eligible customer framework. So what can we do to really upscale renewables and off-grid solutions?
Right, okay. So you actually asked a lot of questions there that you didn't actually ask. So, I mean, so first of all, Olon does not in any way promote the idea that Nigeria should be a 100% renewable country, right? Because we have so much gas resource in Nigeria, and gas is a much cleaner fuel than the, you know, $15 billion of diesel we're burning every year to power 40,000 megawatts of diesel generators, right? So, so solar is part of the mix, not the whole mix. But in terms of regulation, you know, there's obviously sometimes a gap between the regulation and the execution of the regulation. But this is one sector where, you know, Sanusi and the team at REA has done amazing work in first the mini grid regulation, you know, and then the franchise regulation. Anyway, there's so many of them. And countries all over the world, you know, entrepreneurs from all over the world, from as far away from Indonesia, Cambodia, Kenya, South Africa, Mexico, they've all commented that Nigeria actually has, for off-grid renewables, about the best regulation in the developing world. So we have the regulation in place, and that's, you know, and that's there. But obviously, it doesn't know. It's not always. There's sometimes a gap. So like the regulation around zero tariffs on solar panels being imported suddenly switched like 2 years ago, and then it's sometimes, you know, agencies of government aren't aligned with each other, and that's just the reality of government and government anywhere. But I think on this one, it is a pretty solid regulation that's in place, and I think, and there's a process now to enshrine it in law, so that you can't now in 2 years suddenly they change it all. And there is actually an electricity bill, so it's where is it now? Any idea? Third reading, okay, and of course everyone is distracted right now. So, but hopefully it can get through before the end of this administration to enshrine everything that is there into law.
Fantastic. I'll quickly take an online question, if you don't mind. That apart from solar systems, is Olon making efforts to utilize other sources of renewables like biomass to help close energy gap? And a follow-up question, how do we move from assembly of solar panels to manufacturing of solar modules and cells?
Okay, so the first question, we do have a few angel stage investments and ideation companies that are looking at the biomass to power, but none of them have kind of got to that scale that they're ready for growth capital. It's all pretty experimental. Obviously, you know, hydro has a big potential here, but we actually, in all this, the 5 years that I've been at Olon, we've yet to receive a sound sort of mini hydro plan, even though the technology is there. Same with wind. There's only a few places in Nigeria that are actually ideal for wind power anyway. And then waste to energy is obviously another one. But the problem is in most urban centers, our waste to energy, our waste collection is not organized enough to get us the amount of waste you need to generate power affordably. And so these are all out there and possible, but we really just haven't seen scalable models yet. But we would invest in them if we saw them.
The next question was about local assembly.
Right. Well, so basically the external panels, I mean, the only thing they don't make is the solar cell. And I mean, that's something that I think the scale that China does it at will make it really hard to compete. And, you know, they obviously get the benefit of huge government subsidies and support and, you know, long-term vision that, you know, it'll just take a long time to catch up with. So even with battery systems, I think we need to be okay with that for at least the next 2 to 3 years. At least first, let's assemble them, but then, you know, we need to backward integrate. And with batteries, for example, we have all sorts. We have lithium everywhere in Nigeria. We have all of these, you know, rare earth metals. All of that is here, and there's people actually, you know, looking around Jos now to actually look at mining it at scale, and then eventually making batteries here. But while that is happening, because that'll take a while, we should start assembling them so that then we can backward integrate, you know, in the country. The worst thing that could happen is if we have all these minerals that are used for batteries, but then we do the normal and we just export them and then import the batteries at, you know, 10x the value.
All right. I think it would be fair to chip in at this point that Stimaco is also assembling smart metering systems in country.
Right.
All right. Next question, sir.
It's in Cross River, right?
Cross River, right. Thank you. So, you know.
I made the introduction.
Oh, fantastic. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Weaver. And how are you doing? Of course, question. I want to appreciate you in a very special way. It's been over 5 years altogether in different areas. Yes, by virtue of your mandates, you were limited primarily to a certain area of the country. But despite that, you influenced the entire industry in so many ways. And you actually made a lot of things very easy for us. And that goes to quite a number of development agencies. I want to wish you well as you move forward. My question primarily will be around your transitioning plan as you leave Holland, what you're going to leave behind in terms of advice to Shell. And the reason is this: the attention was primarily on the rural areas. There is no power in the country. We went from rural to underserved to unserved area, and the entire country today is totally unserved. In terms of expansion of scope, considering the capabilities within your space, and of course, we can definitely integrate or interdepend on other agencies as well. What is the real plan going forward as we move forward? Thank you.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess to answer your question, I think you're referring to the mandate that we're supposed to focus on the Niger Delta. Yeah. So because it's funded by Shell, we do have that mandate, and so every investee, there has to be some element of what they do in the Niger Delta, but never 100%. Which is why we obviously have investees that operate all over Nigeria. So that will continue to be the case, but it's still, you know, there's still a Nigeria-wide mandate. And I mean, the majority of the companies we've invested in, the headquarters are in Lagos and Abuja, with some footprint in the Niger Delta. So I don't think it has stymied what we've done. There's only a few companies that maybe only operate, you know, completely outside the Niger Delta and don't have any plans to go there that we haven't been able to invest in. So, and that will stay for now. But as Shell divests from onshore, that may change, but that's something that will happen after I go. But I think everything else from Shell, they're going to continue. We've gotten sort of permission the last while to do larger deals, so we can actually start, you know, investing larger amounts in the kind of star companies that we've uncovered, and that will help again scale faster, help everyone scale faster.
All right, thank you. So have here, then there, then this way.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Weber. There's one aspect of, one part of you that I'd like to mention, if you don't mind.
Okay.
So a young man put up a billboard in Lagos.
Put up a what?
Billboard
Oh,
in Lagos that was deriding the poor.
Yeah.
Remember?
Yeah, yeah.
And all on kicked against this very strongly. Even on LinkedIn, against so many, pushbacks. That was for me, that was impactful, really. Beyond energy, still looking out for the underserved, the poor, whatever. Now a question. We're seeing a trend particularly in the solar home systems, subsector, where the big names, the OEMs, are coming in and crowding out the local players. So they are moving away from B2B and moving directly to B2C, okay? And almost taking out the local guys. If you're in my shoes, for example, what will you do?
I think you need to find a way to beat them at their own game. So I mean, not all of the international players are doing that well in Nigeria in SHS. I mean, M-KOPA, which invented SHS and had the biggest market in Kenya, came to Nigeria and didn't actually do SHS. They're selling mobile phones because they couldn't do it. And Lumos is doing okay, but they're also, they've kind of stagnated. I think B-Box is relatively new in the market. They haven't gone that far. I think Greenlight Planet has done well, but there's no reason why Nigerian players can't beat them because they don't actually understand the Nigerian market. There's one of our investees, Salfa, that, they started from a low base, but they're actually growing much faster than any of these companies. Infobranches, which was actually initially a fintech platform to basically help enable SHS payments, is now also doing distribution. And they have 15,000 agents around Nigeria. So suddenly there's 15,000 agents that can sell your product. And they can sell your product and everyone else's product. But you can find a way to work with them probably better than a foreign player can. So I think everything is there for you to succeed and beat the outside guys, because this is a market that you need to understand better than they do. And there's a reason why most of the big East African players never came here or didn't do well, because they didn't understand the market.
Brilliant. Demanding glasses.
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is Chinedu Nevo. I'm a PhD candidate at the Open University Business School, United Kingdom. I have two questions. The first one is, what are some of the parameters that Allon looks at before financing renewable energy businesses, especially the early stage ones that do not have any track record of performance? And secondly, what is the single most important factor that can enhance the survival of renewable energy businesses in Nigeria, looking at the uncertainties from the political, economic, and social sphere? Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right, so great. In terms of what we look for in a company with no track record, that's when you look at the entrepreneur and the management team, not necessarily even the innovation or what it is they're doing, and you see their commitment, their understanding of the market, and their, how committed they really are to this. You'll often get early stage businesses that, they present it to you, but then on the side, the same person and their management team are doing 8 other things. That's always a problem. Or they put together a business plan, and when you look at it, it's completely unrealistic, or it's the same thing everyone else is doing. So there has to be a little bit of innovation there, but the most important thing is, do you believe in this entrepreneur? That's the main thing. And then in terms of how to survive, I think it's the same for really every company. Be persistent, always have integrity, listen to the customer, understand your markets. I mean, it's really the same things that every company has, but I think persistence on this one is probably the most important.
Thank you very much. So, next question. Oh, okay, after you, then behind you.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Uzochukwu Bamalo. I'm the CEO of Manamus Electric. We build walk-in cold storage solutions powered with solar. First of all, I want to say congratulations to Dr. Weber on your achievements in the industry. I also want to commend Olon. We are a recent investee of Olon. We got funded this year, so I want to thank them for the process. It was quite seamless, considering when we met Olon, we were still at an ideation stage. We had never built a cold storage solution before. We are basically just working with professors and students of the University of Nigeria, trying to come up with designs that can work. And Olon, we are very supportive in corporate governance, trying to make we are very ambitious. So our goals are quite unrealistic at the time. So all the support was really helpful, and I want to thank them for the process. So my friend here who mentioned about founders who have no track record of performance. Yeah, we had a track record in doing solar installations, but we had never done a cold storage before, but the support has always been there. Now, thank you for that. Now to my question is, since I was really excited when I read that you are moving to a university, and as an organization where most of our work is tied to university professors and students who do R&D with us, that's how our R&D budget is the university. So I just feel there's lots of possibilities for collaboration in terms of with universities. So with your background in this sector and going into the academic space, do you think you would be able to influence R&D in universities? Because there's lots of talented and brilliant minds there, which can be leveraged. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
So sorry, quick. So were you an ideation or an angel business? Okay, that's it. Okay, all right. Since when? Oh, okay. And you got it this time. Okay, good. All right. So our portfolio is so big, we don't actually know everybody now. So that's fantastic. So congratulations. So clap for him. Okay. All right. Yeah. So in terms of the university, I mean, okay, so I'm going to be running an American university. And there is a lot of, it actually has a very world-class engineering department. I haven't been there for like 20 years, so I don't know how good the R&D is and all that, but I will keep this in mind.
Fantastic. So on behind, any online questions again?
Thank you. Good evening. The name is Chinedu Onyebula, and I work in the energy sector. So one of his questions was what I was going to ask. But to add or build to that, I was going to ask, what is all in? Because one of the challenges we have in the sector now is one, access to finance, and also making attractive to investors in terms of having your having gone through assessment of the sites beforehand and having those reports available for investors to proofread and to ascertain that they meet certain criteria. So I wanted to find out what could Olon do to one, provide access to financing that is cheaper to prospective participants in the sector, and as well as to facilitate some of these projects that are in incubation stages and make them attractive to investors.
Okay. Thank you very much.
We don't fund that. But in terms of, can we have lower cost capital? I don't think there is any lower cost capital than ours. I mean, we do dollar debt as low as 5%, and we do Naira debt in single digits. You can't find that anywhere else. So I don't think we can get lower.
Okay, thank you. The man in white.
I fear this one.
It's an inside job.
Greetings, everyone. My name is David Arinze. I'm a energy enthusiast. I just want to say thank you, Dr. Weber, really, because of how far the Open Energy Challenge has gone. In some of the most successful companies, I bet, say, in the renewable energy sector today. So, studio guys, please help me. And creating a model for what I would say one of the most successful opportunities to practice blended financing We haven't really seen it like this in the sector, and it takes thought leadership, to be able to mobilize the kind of funding we've gotten through grants and through other sorts of mechanisms. So I just wanted, this is not a question, right, to tell you. I mean, kudos to all the work you've been doing with the amazing team at Allon, and we wish you well. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Round of applause, please. Okay, a lady now. A lady, yes, please, the one in the middle. More ladies, please.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Thank you so much for calling me out. Yes. So my question is around scaling energy access pretty much, because we know that mini grids won't do it alone, is not able to do it alone. We already have distribution assets with pretty much no infrastructure to then light them up. So my question is, do you have experience working with DISCOs in the light of powering communities and maybe interconnected mini grids, that is? And if not, are there plans for Allon after this, or after you move out to then work on this, maybe either with the likes of maybe whoever comes in after you, and then to then make the work a bit more seamless interconnected mini grids?
Okay, so the question is, will we invest in interconnected mini grids?
I mean, investing also in terms of capacity building, because I know that is also what Allon does essentially, because we know that mini grids can't do it alone.
Okay, so I'm not actually clear what the question is, but if it's, are we going to invest in interconnected mini grids? Yeah, it's something we can do. If Yanni's just watching the room, so GBE is one of our investees. Now we are not funding this part of it, but they're doing the first interconnected mini grid in Nigeria. At Wuse Market here in Abuja. So, so it is something we'll definitely invest in, because I think it is one way to get at scale more than the kind of small, tiny communities that the traditional mini grids were in. The mini grid concept was developed in India and East Africa, where the communities that are off grid are really rural and really small. It's only Nigeria where even, Aso Villa is pretty much off grid. And so so I think the interconnected mini grid is what could be the silver bullet to really change the game here and really close that energy access gap at scale. But again, I mean, I think the franchise regulation, which is what regulates that opportunity, has been in place 2 years now. And so it's the execution on undergrid mini grids is really way too slow. So we need to speed that up to kind of take advantage of that.
All right. So Dr. Weber, I have a question on my own before Madam comes on. So we know that, without taking away the grants from the mini grids is a problem. How do we, because the grants cannot be on forever. So the grants will run out eventually. How do we make it a sustainable business without these grants?
Yeah, that's a good question. I mean, there's very few places in the world yet where mini grids are fully operational and profitable without grants. But I actually think the more sort of peri-urban, larger town undergrid mini grids are actually where the solution will be. So instead of having 150 households, 300 households, whatever, you actually have 1,000, 2,000, and then you're actually building a mini utility and then clustering them, right? And so that you have several of these in the same area. Because right now, for various, whether it's donors driving it or whatever, many of the mini grid companies have mini grids scattered all over the place. So there's no economies of scale, there's no operational efficiency. And I think if there's more of this concentration of larger mini grids, and then it, clustered, I think they could then have a chance at being profitable.
Fantastic. Thank you. So, lady in blue, then Madam Tosei.
Hello, everyone. So my question to Weber is twofold. My first question is, Allon has been around for what, 5-6 years now? I can't see the person I'm asking that question.
Your name, please.
Yeah. My name is Ifi Malo. I work for Clean Technology Hub. So my question is, Allon has been around for about 6 years now. When you look back and you see how the sector has evolved, what do you think the opportunities are that remain, or where do you think the sector should be going? What are the tips that you can give to us about where you see the trends of the sector going? My second question is, When you look
That's a
at
big enough question.
no, the second one is actually more important to me. So if you have to choose, I'll prefer you answer the second one.
Okay.
When you look back at your legacy and all the things you have done, and I think you've done great, which one stands out for you amongst all of them? If someone asked you what your legacy was when you did this work with Olon, which one is the one that you're most proud of?
Okay, so I'll start with the second question. And I think it's investing in a way that we ensured this was going to be a Nigerian-driven and owned sector. If you were in a room like this in Nairobi of people from the energy access space, almost everyone would look like me. You would be shocked. You'd be in that room, you'd be like, in Africa, what's happening? Thankfully, sorry, no offense. In Nigeria, thankfully, it is almost 99% Nigerian driven. And even the international companies that in East Africa, you won't find a Kenyan in their top 3 management layers. Their first senior hire is usually the Nigeria country manager, because they realize in Nigeria, you cannot come and do this kind of funny, anyway, you know what I'm saying. So I think that's it, that we helped drive that legacy, that Nigeria's off-grid sector will be Nigerian driven and owned. There's obviously space for the international companies, that's fine, but not as the only and dominant players, but as sort of competitors, that's fine. So that's that. The first question then is what we should be looking at. So I think and I think some of you need to think about, okay, who are the other companies in my segment, whether it's solar home system, whether it's mini grid, solar energy systems, whatever. What are the companies in my segment that we could actually find a way to align with and merge? Because there's just too many. And ultimately what could happen is everyone's chasing 3-4 mini grids. And then it could be that an international player comes in with the $50 million checkbook and then starts building 100 mini grids a year, and everyone else is struggling with their 2-3 a year because they're all so small. So I think we need to aggregate if you want to protect the industry and make it stay as a Nigerian-led industry. I think that's one. The second one is I think we need to keep innovating for new business models. The exciting one for me now is the battery as a service model, where it's sort of like a solar home system without the solar panel, right? And the charging is all done for like a kiosk, and then you basically come and rent a battery, and then the battery can power your house at night. It can power your business during the day, and then you bring it back, get a new one. And that's actually one that I think has the potential to scale much faster than the other models. So, and then the other one I think is the whole thing about local manufacturing and assembly. We really need to focus on that. And it's really strange to me that there's no other donor or investor that is focused on that. And it makes you wonder what their objective is, right? Why won't they invest in local manufacturing? Why are they against that? Why do they want Nigeria? Why do they want to spend all their money in Europe or Asia importing stuff to Nigeria? And I think it's a question that you all need to ask those investors. Why won't you invest in local manufacturing? Because we cannot build a 20, 30, $40 billion solar energy industry in Nigeria with everything being imported. It just doesn't work. It doesn't make sense. So I think those would be the 3.
Please, one more round of applause, please. Brilliant response. Brilliant response. So we'll have an online question before we come back here. Say good evening, Mr. Dr. Weber. Thanks for your impact so far. I am Solomon Ezeme, a journalist from Energy Day in Lekki in Lagos. BUA is planning to go into lithium production here in Nigeria. This will ease the country's total dependence on imported batteries if Nigerians take advantage of it. Olon has been facilitating the import of renewable products on behalf of many Nigerian firms. Will Olon be willing to partner with BUA when it begins lithium production in Nigeria, and how?
thank you, because everybody is looking at Olon and talking about the investments they make and all the money they put down in the industry. There's something they do, which for me is more important than the money. It's actually the Olon Hub. There's a lot of support there. They've actually been able, I mean, I'll speak from experience, they've been able to support us in business development services to the point of even how to do our marketing. They had a very important firm like teach us what to do and how to do it. And I think this is key. Money is good, but you need to know how to use the money and actually grow the money. And that is one thing that they do that I really sincerely appreciate. And I know that it's due to your insights and the wonderful team that you work with. We can't take that away, that it's not just about only Weber. Weber needs a good team to also work with, and that's been very awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you very much. Round of applause, please. Okay, there and there. Thank you so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Samson Mashibino from USAID Power Africa. I just want to ask, and I think it's a bit tangential question from the lady's question. In the distribution space, on grid itself, is there any appetite, just in case, for if there are innovative business models within the on grid space that Olon might be interested in, if in the future that happens? Thanks.
Well, that will be for others to decide, but I think at this point, I see it more that in a couple of years, some of our investees are going to take over the discos. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's brilliant. Okay. Another lady here, then the last question at the back.
Okay, so my question is more to, I mean, we've seen and been beneficiaries of your experience and leadership in renewable energy. So my question is more of, so you've lived and breathed renewable energy in the last 5 years. So, and it's a career question. What informed the change and what will you miss the most?
Okay, so I have career ADD. And basically every 5 years I do something completely different. So when I started at Olon, I didn't know what PV was. I didn't know what a mini grid was. I didn't know what a solar home system was. I shouldn't admit this. Building institutions and impact investing, not because I knew anything technical about the space. But then after 5 years, I feel like I've done what I needed to do and to hand it to others. Same thing I did in the Tony Aluminum Foundation before that. But what I'll miss is I'll miss the people. I mean, it's the most amazing group of people anyone could ask to work for. Not just, I mean, the Olon team, as Aviva said, every one of our team members, they're absolutely crazy but committed people. And so I'm absolutely confident that, you know, Olon is going to be fine. And hopefully, the CEO that will come after me will be announced within the next week or two. And the next CEO will be an African woman. But what I'll miss is the people, but then also just the energy here, you know, and the impact that we can make, because we know that every investment we make, and then the work that those investees do to bring light to rural or poor communities or small businesses, it actually can be transformational. And it's something that you can really see. And, you know, I mean, we in this room have experienced it. You go to a mini grid community, you go to someone who has a solar home system, whatever, it really is something that makes a huge difference. And I think that's something that it's not many sectors that you can say that there's that instant impact. But then of course, Nigeria, I've been here over 30 years. So it's going to be really hard, and it still hasn't hit me.
That should have been the last question, if you ask me. That should have been the last question, but because I've given my word, right? So please.
It better be a good question.
That's like putting me under pressure. All right, good evening, everyone. My name is Don. So I work with Afrinet PowerTech, one of the companies actually been invested in by Olon. And I remember the first time we met, it was here in Abuja at an event organized by Clean Tech Hub. I think the madam is also here as well. You very quickly, I just met you and then I told you briefly about what we're doing, and you just gave me your card and wrote something. I guess the program was just about the off-grid challenge, and that must have been the last day for the application or so back then. And we quickly did apply, and I must say that the experience we got from there is actually the best thing that's happened to our company so far. And I want to thank you for the influence that you've had in the industry, not just here in Nigeria, but across Africa as well. And it's very sad to see that you're going elsewhere. We would love to keep you here for much longer, but we really can't do that right now. So, but I would also like to know, I believe that there's also an opportunity to look into partnerships with some other international organizations that are also interested in doing something similar to what USADF has provided, using that off-grid challenge platform. So could there be some other things like that, like looking into some other organizations, international agencies that are interested? Right at this discourse, last week, we had some discussions around the European Fund for Sustainable Development, and that could also be a potential collaboration. So is there something that Olon is actually doing to try to work with some other agencies to ensure that such fantastic programs like the off-grid challenge will continue to go on long after now? Thank you.
All right, so yeah, thanks for the question. So I mean, unless this changes after I leave, but the off-grid challenge will actually end this year, because after 5 years, that means we've seeded something like 50, 60 angel businesses. And we now need to move to larger ticket sizes. We still have $160 million to deploy in the next 5 years. So we need to start writing $3 to $4 to $5, $10 million checks. And so this, I think we've seeded the industry enough. And so I don't think we'll be looking for partnerships in that space. It'll be more partnerships in larger scale investing. The USADF partnership, and then with DDI, where David is, has been an absolutely phenomenal partnership. And probably, like you said, a case study of blended finance and how it can actually work. But at all of those programs, no matter how good they are, at some point you have to stop them to kind of move to something bigger and so on. But now we have the most amazing pipeline of companies like yours that we know about, and that we know who the winners are and who the stars are, and we know who will get more money and who will be able to help grow further. And that's something that has made it incredibly invaluable to us. There's no other company in the world, any investor, that has that kind of pipeline that we do. When they come into the market, they're going to invest in the same 3 or 4 companies that everyone else has invested in, and that's fine because we know the next 20 champions, and those are the ones that Olon will invest in after I go, unless Tony changes everything.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, I know I said it was a question, but this is the very last question because I was caught up in this choke, this UFC Charles Oliveira choke, and I couldn't help it. I had to tap out. So I'll allow the last question from the very last question.
You have to pay me overtime.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Alex Obiechino.
Oh.
So you know why.
Sincerely, Dr. Weber, I cannot express how much the industry is grateful for having such a personality like you. I'm not asking any question. I think this is a valedictory session, and it's a time to actually celebrate a man who has actually stand out in the industry. And I think Weber deserves an ovation. Please, if you really celebrate this man, please, a standing ovation for him is not too much. And a round of applause, please. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give honor to who it's due and deserving, because he has done well. Thank you, Weber. Thank you for all you do for us. And I say the legacy you're going to keep for us is getting and being part of that process that gets the person who is going to wear this big shoe very well. Thank you, Weber. God bless you. We love you. Thank you.
All right, fantastic. But Alex, that was supposed to be my responsibility. Don't do that for me. I know have you, but no problems. So finally, we allow Dr. Weber to shoot his last shot. All right, this is probably the last time he'll be appearing before us wearing this scarf. this cap or this better. So Dr. Weber, last shot, final words.
Yeah, just, I mean, Alex, thank you for those words. Just thank you for all the kind words that were said. And, you know, none of this was possible without the amazing team that I had behind me. And Shell, I mean, Shell just, when I first got the email from the Shell recruiter saying, would I be interested in this? I thought it was a 419 message because it's like, oh, $200 million fund, you get to start it. It's energy access, but you can kind of define what that means. It was just like, this is too good to be true. And it turned out to be, and it's just been amazing to be able to shape it. And then, but then also to be able to build an industry with everyone here. And so I guess my challenge to you is, you know, let's keep it going. I mean, the work, it's really hard. And to some extent, I feel like, I hope you don't feel like I'm leaving you all stranded, because there's an amazing group of people here that can carry it on. And I look forward to coming back. I'll visit Nigeria at least once a year. And to come back and like see projects getting bigger and, you know, programs getting bigger and these companies getting bigger. And I've often said that there's a number of our investees that will be the first solar unicorns in Africa. And I look forward to, you know, when they're listed on stock exchanges and all that, and celebrate with everybody. But it's a really hard, long, longer. None of you are doing this for the money. I know it's like solar is not like the sexy industry, but it's anywhere, and it's not a get rich quick thing. And so I just also, you know, appreciate all of you, and hope just to email away, such a way, phone call away, any advice you need, any links you need, any connections you need, anything you need, let me know. I'm here to help, and I will always be. So thanks for the warm words tonight. It means a lot to me, and it's going to be very difficult to go, but I'm going with very happy memories. So thank you very much.
Dr. Weber for president. All right, to say the vote of thanks, I will invite the partner at Next Year Power, Emeka Bukara.
Thank you, Michael. All right, so I had the hard job of doing the vote of thanks, but Alex has done that for me. But just on a serious note, thank you, Dr. Weber, for all you've done in the sector. I think a lot of people know Allon for the finance work you do, but a lot of the research work in the sector has been funded by Allon very quietly, and been able to really make headway with the information. A lot of things they've done have laid scale for what will be of this sector. And when we look back in 10 years, some of these unicorns that are going to grow out will be because of the work Allon has done. So please, final round of applause for Dr. Weber. And thanks for attending, and have a good night.
Thank you. Well, I would have said Dr. Shibnida, I'm going to pray for him, but thank you very much, everybody. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, man. Thanks for coming. Well, let me turn this off. Yeah.